Are you looking at this man? Yes, he is the same man. This is Nathan Carman, a man accused of multiple serious charges, including the alleged murder of his own mother, and deep suspicions surrounding his grandfather's death, along with fraud and financial crimes. A single family, 2 mysterious deaths.
It's not the money. It's not so much even my freedom as it is my reputation.
Wait a second. Was this just an accident? How did you survive and not your mother?
I would just like to thank the public for their prayers and for their concern for both my mother and for myself. Emotionally, I've been through a huge amount, and my request is just to be allowed to mourn naturally.
We've never doubted that Nathan Carman is intelligent and crafty, that he planned these murders carefully. And that's part of the challenge that the government faces in bringing the case against us.
So the story begins in the early morning hours of September 25th, 2016, deep in the Atlantic Ocean. The massive container ship, the Orient Lucky, glides through the choppy waters south of Martha's Vineyard. The crew, scanning the vast expanse of open sea, spots something strange. A small orange raft floats in isolation. Inside is a young man, Nathan Carman, clutching survival rations, seemingly calm despite having been lost at sea for 8 days. There's no sign of his mother, Linda Carman, who had set sail with him on a routine overnight fishing trip. Nathan is rescued and brought ashore. The Coast Guard, puzzled but relieved, begins an investigation into what they believe might be a tragic boating accident. But as reporters dig into the background and as federal investigators quietly begin reviewing past records, what surfaces is far more sinister. Because 3 years earlier, in 2013, Nathan's grandfather, a wealthy real estate developer named John Chakalos, was found shot dead in his bed. No signs of forced entry, no robbery, and no arrests ever made. Now, with Linda presumed dead and Nathan the only survivor, investigators begin asking, is this a coincidence or something darker?
How did you survive and not your mother?
The Carman family wasn't ordinary. It was tied to one of New England's wealthiest elder care real estate empires. John Chakalos, born in 1925, was a self-made multimillionaire. He built his fortune in Connecticut by developing and leasing senior housing properties. By 2013, his estimated estate was valued at over $40 million. He was respected in the community and adored by his 4 daughters. Nathan was born in 1994, diagnosed early with Asperger's syndrome. Nathan was described as intelligent but socially withdrawn. His mother was fiercely protective of him, especially after divorcing his father, Clark Carman. As Nathan grew older, his bond with his grandfather John became unusually close. John funded Nathan's education, supported him financially, and provided trust funds for his future. Family members later reported that John was generous with all his daughters and grandchildren, but Nathan received special attention. This favoritism wasn't subtle. According to court documents and testimony, John even convinced Linda to name Nathan as the sole beneficiary of her share of the family trust. While this generosity appeared heartwarming on the surface, it would eventually raise red flags after John's death and Linda's disappearance. In 2016, he purchased a second-hand 31-foot fishing boat, which he named Chicken Pox. He modified it himself, removing bulkheads and trim tabs in ways later described as safe and structurally compromising. It was aboard this very boat that Nathan invited his mother Linda to go fishing, setting the stage for the tragedy that followed. It's haunting to think about the sequence of events here. Have a grandfather shot, execution style, in his bed with no forced entry, and his grandson just happens to have purchased the exact same weapon. Then, 3 years later, the grandson goes out on a boat with his mother, and she's never seen again. What are the chances? Is this just coincidence stacked on coincidence? Or is there a calculated pattern behind the tragedy? As investigators would soon find out, the answers were buried not just in ocean water, but in years of hidden motives, financial strain, and cold-blooded planning. According to Nathan, it was supposed to be a quick overnight trip, but within hours of their departure, things took a deadly turn. Nathan would later tell investigators that the boat began to sink unexpectedly in the early hours of September 18th. He claimed he tried to reach for his mother, but she vanished into the water.
My mom and I fished very frequently together. That's the primary thing that we did to spend time with one another. We fished probably every other week.
So what happened? What went wrong?
I heard a noise.
A funny noise coming from the engine.
The engine sounded different. I looked in the hatch where the engine was. I observed there was water, quite a bit of water. And the belt on the engine was picking up water and kind of spinning it.
What did you think?
I knew that there was a serious problem, but I didn't think we were sinking. I thought that I was going to diagnose the problem and that we were going to go back to shore.
He says he closed the hatch and shut off the engine. He says he told his mother to gather the fishing lines in the rear, while he says he brought the ditch bags full of safety gear up to the front. But he says to his shock, in no time, the boat was underwater.
I was walking on the deck, it was there, and then it wasn't.
Any sign of your mother at this point?
No, not at that point.
He claims he was totally disoriented, doesn't remember hearing his mother or seeing her. The life raft was designed to inflate automatically. Nathan says he swam to it.
I got on board the life raft and was looking around, and I was calling out to my mom. I did not see or hear my mom. And I was blowing the whistle with 3 loud, short bursts, which is a distress signal.
So if she had been on the surface of the water, you feel like you would have been able to see her?
I assumed that if she had been on the surface and conscious, that she would have been calling out to me and I would have been able to find her. But I didn't know why that hadn't happened.
Now, by his account, he was all alone in a kind of floating tent, a tiny speck of orange in a vast gray sea. As night fell, he was drifting in the darkness. Like Tom Hanks in Castaway, Nathan says he spent days alone out in the open water until, just like the movie, the freighter that saved Nathan, aptly named the Orient Lucky, was docked when we intercepted it later that week. They'd recorded this remarkable footage of the rescue. Look here. That little figure is Nathan, clinging to a life preserver, clinging to life, then jumping into the churning seas as the ship struggles to stay close enough to grab him.
We could see he was very tired, exhausted. He rested for a while, clinging onto the ladder. Our crew helped him to get on board the ship.
I was no longer lost, and that's when I allowed myself to feel relief.
What was going through your mind?
I'm safe.
It's a compelling, heartstring-tugging story of loss and survival.
That I love my mother. Present tense, I love my mother.
But is it also something more?
Police want to know what role, if any, Nathan Carman played in his mother's disappearance.
Wait a second. Was this just an accident?
Is his story really the whole story? As more details emerge, the portrait of the young fisherman takes on a darker hue.
Nathan said he managed to get onto the inflatable life raft and drifted alone for 8 days before being rescued. But investigators weren't satisfied with this version of events. For starters, Nathan had made questionable repairs to the Chicken Pox. He had removed key structural components, specifically the trim tabs and forward bulkheads, and filled the holes with epoxy sealant. This modification, according to marine experts, would have compromised the boat's ability to stay afloat in open waters. He also failed to activate any emergency beacons. No distress call, no flare, nothing. This raised immediate concerns among Coast Guard officials, who found it suspicious that a boat could go down in the Atlantic with no emergency alert and no sign of a scramble for help. Moreover, when the Orient Lucky container ship rescued Nathan, he appeared surprisingly calm and in good health. Reports later confirmed he showed no signs of dehydration, sunburn, or other symptoms expected after floating at sea for more than a week. This only deepened suspicion. Nathan later filed an $85,000 insurance claim for the loss of the boat. The insurance company National Liability and Fire Insurance didn't accept Nathan's claim at face value. Instead, they launched a full-scale investigation into the sinking of the Chicken Pox. What they found disturbed them. Marine surveyors discovered that Nathan's repairs to the boat were not only amateur, but dangerously negligent. The removed trim tabs and improperly sealed holes left the vessel vulnerable to flooding. More troubling was the behavior Nathan displayed leading up to the trip. He had left a bucket of live eels, a bait he planned to use, back in his car. He had not informed anyone about the exact coordinates of where they were going. And critically, he had significantly increased the insured value of the boat shortly before the trip. The insurer denied his claim, citing willful misconduct. A legal battle ensued, and court testimony revealed even more inconsistencies in Nathan's account. Expert witnesses testified that the boat likely would not have sunk under the conditions Nathan described unless it had been deliberately sabotaged. As suspicions around the boat sinking grew, investigators revisited the unsolved murder of John Chakalos from 2013. Nathan had purchased a Sig Sauer rifle, the same type used to kill his grandfather, just a month before the shooting. He had also deleted files from his computer and removed the GPS unit from his car shortly after the murder. These details had been part of the original investigation, but were now revisited under a new lens. The theory emerged that Nathan may have killed John Chakalos for inheritance money and then killed Linda 3 years later to secure her portion as well. As investigators pieced together the puzzle, a pattern seemed to form: 2 deaths 3 years apart, both leading to potential financial gain for Nathan. What stands out in this case isn't just the tragedy, it's the trail. Everywhere you look, there are patterns. A financial decline, questionable boat modifications, a silent trip into open waters with no distress call, a murder weapon that vanished, an alibi that doesn't hold. And yet, for years, Nathan Carman walked free. No charges, no convictions, just questions. But investigators weren't done, not even close, because what came next would take the case from suspicion to federal courtrooms, and from silence to indictment. As federal investigators dug deeper into the events surrounding Linda Carman's disappearance and John Chakalos' murder, the case began to take shape, not as 2 unrelated family tragedies, but as a calculated pattern built around inheritance, deception, and premeditation. After years of collecting testimony, court records, financial documents, and forensic analysis, authorities were now prepared to act. Behind the scenes, a federal grand jury had begun reviewing the evidence. Meanwhile, Nathan's legal problems were multiplying. In addition to the denied insurance claim for the Chicken Pox, he faced civil litigation initiated by his aunts John Chakalos' surviving daughters. They filed probate challenges to prevent Nathan from receiving any further inheritance from the estate. The argument was simple. Nathan stood to benefit from both deaths, and therefore, under the Slayer rule, he should be disqualified from any inheritance if wrongdoing could be proven. But the legal system moved slowly. While these civil suits were tied up in probate court, federal prosecutors continued their quiet buildup towards something far more serious. On May 10, 2022, the U.S. Attorney's Office in Vermont unsealed an 8-count federal indictment against Nathan Carman. He was arrested at his home in Vernon, Vermont, and charged with 1 count of murder on the high seas, a rarely used federal statute, for allegedly killing his mother, Linda Carman, during their 2016 fishing trip. In addition, he faced 7 counts of fraud, specifically mail and wire fraud, connected to attempts to defraud both the boat insurer and his late grandfather's estate. According to the indictment, Nathan's actions were part of a long-term scheme to enrich himself through inheritance. Prosecutors allege that Nathan murdered his grandfather, John Chakalos, in 2013 to gain access to his wealth. Later murdered his mother, Linda, in 2016 to eliminate her as an obstacle to further inheritance. Sought to collect insurance money for the sunken boat he had intentionally sabotaged. Misled investigators and family members in order to conceal the crimes. Court documents laid out a chilling narrative. Nathan had plotted to eliminate both his grandfather and mother to become the sole heir to millions of dollars. He pleaded not guilty to all charges.
It's not the money. It's not so much even my freedom as it is my reputation.
The government's case leaned heavily on a mixture of circumstantial evidence, digital records, and witness testimony. Prosecutors emphasized the following points: weapon purchase and timeline gaps. Nathan had bought the same type of weapon used to kill John Chakalos just weeks before the murder, then claimed it had been lost. Investigators identified unexplained time gaps in his whereabouts on the morning of the murder. Boat modifications. Marine experts testified that Nathan's DIY alterations to the Chicken Pox, including removing bulkheads and trim tabs, were extremely dangerous and consistent with intent to scuttle the boat. Forensic inconsistencies. The raft's drift trajectory didn't match Nathan's reported location of the boat's sinking. This discrepancy suggested the event did not happen as he described. Behavior post-rescue. After being rescued at sea, Nathan showed no signs of trauma, exposure, or injury, despite claiming to have drifted for 8 days without seeing another human. Financial motive. Nathan's bank records showed significant depletion of funds inherited from his grandfather. Prosecutors argued he was motivated by a desire to secure his mother's portion of the estate. Digital evidence, data recovered from Nathan's devices, showed deleted GPS history, wiped hard drives, and conflicting stories provided to family and law enforcement. All of these details were woven together to present a broader picture of premeditated fraud and calculated homicide. Still, it remained a circumstantial case. There were no direct witnesses to either death, no recovered murder weapon, and no confession. Prosecutors would need to convince a jury that the pattern of behavior itself proved guilt, beyond a reasonable doubt. Nathan Carman's legal team pushed back hard. They argued that no physical evidence tied Nathan to John Chakalos' murder. Linda Carman's disappearance was a tragic accident at sea, not a homicide. The boat may have sunk due to flawed construction, not sabotage. His autism spectrum disorder contributed to misinterpretations of his behavior and communication style. The government had no definitive proof that a crime had occurred, let alone that Nathan had committed it. His lawyers also emphasized that he had cooperated with investigators, willingly gave interviews, and never attempted to flee or obstruct justice. With a complex case unfolding and millions in inheritance at stake, the stage was set for a trial that would draw national attention. But the courtroom battle never happened. Sometimes in criminal cases, the process is like a puzzle slowly taking shape, one that doesn't rely on a single piece of evidence, but 1,000 small fragments that form a disturbing whole. And in Nathan Carman's case, those pieces seem to align: a fortune, a family unraveling, a pattern of silence and disappearance. But in the eyes of the law, guilt must be proven, clearly, beyond all doubt. And before that could happen, the story took one final, unexpected turn. On June 15, 2023, while awaiting trial at the Cheshire County Jail in Keene, New Hampshire, Nathan Carman was found unresponsive in his cell during a routine wellness check. Emergency personnel attempted life-saving measures, but he was pronounced dead at the scene. He was 29 years old. Officials did not release the cause of death to the public. However, his attorneys confirmed that Nathan had written a note addressed to them shortly before his passing. With no trial, no conviction, and no formal conclusion, the charges against him were dismissed by the U.S. Attorney's Office. The indictment was vacated as a legal formality, and the federal case was closed. Nathan Carman died presumed innocent in the eyes of the law. But the questions remained. Linda Carman's body was never recovered. John Chakalos' murder remains officially unsolved, and no one else has ever been charged. The emotional toll on the Carman Chakalos family was profound. Court filings from the civil probate battle reveal how the tragedy fractured family bonds. The same family that once gathered around their father's estate was later locked in courtroom disputes, torn apart by suspicions no one could fully prove, but no one could forget. The case also sparked wider attention across New England and among the broader true crime community. Journalists, legal analysts, and advocates for elder fraud prevention began highlighting vulnerabilities in how trust funds, wills, and family estates are managed. Despite the legal dismissal, this case stirred up significant conversations. What this case did do was raise public awareness of a tragic and all too real risk that sometimes danger hides within families, not outside them. That even the most privileged, wealthy homes are not immune to devastating silence, suspicion, or betrayal. Lessons to be learned. Nathan Carman's case isn't just about one man, one boat, or one family. It's about the systems that failed to prevent multiple tragedies. Elder protection laws that failed to shield John Chakalos, despite evidence that his assets and life were at risk. Probate courts that delayed action while suspicious deaths went unprosecuted. So if this case moved you or made you ask questions, don't let it stop there. Share it, talk about it, and help others recognize the quiet signs of danger, even in the places we think are safest. Thank you for watching this full breakdown of the Carman family deaths. If you found this case important, please consider subscribing to the channel. It helps us continue making deep, respectful, and well-researched documentaries that shine a light on forgotten or misunderstood stories. Your support means more than views. It means awareness. It means remembering the victims. And it means pushing for better systems. One story at a time. Take care of yourselves. And we'll see you in the next video.